Well, what's up? Good morning. Happy Saturday, everybody. It's good to see y'all on. Welcome to the TGF Book Club. I'm excited to dive back into the discussion with our annual read of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I know a lot of peeps in here have read this book already as it is, or maybe this is the first time you're getting exposed to the principles behind it. But overall, it's extremely important and vital that financial literacy is not just learned and understood, but applied and overstood so that as we come into the blessings, as we come into our callings, as we come into serving more people, as we come into progressing and improving our skill sets, and we are rewarded based on the law of compensation for the value that we provide in the marketplaces that we're in, that you know what to do with it, that you know how to maintain it, that you know how to scale it, that you know how to push it forward, and have it for longevity. And I'm really excited to hear some of y'all's takes as we have been reading and are about to discuss lessons 2 and 3 from the book. So I am grateful and I will keep the floor open. If Pat, I know you're newer here, bro, in terms of the book club. But the way this works is we all just discuss the big points that stood out to us, and then we popcorn to somebody on the call. If you haven't read the lessons or you're not caught up with the book, all is good. You can discuss some of the major points that were talked about in the conversation as we were diving into the concepts and the topics of conversation as we've been diving through the book. So I'm gonna leave the floor open if anybody wants to kick us off. But yeah, lesson 2 being why teach financial literacy, and then lesson 3 being mind your own business. So who wants the mic?
Can I go?
Yes, sir.
What's up,
Good
Marco?
good morning.
You all right?
Yes, sir, bro. I'm blessed. It's good to see you, man.
Good to see you too, bro. How everybody doing? Well, anyway.
Gucci,
Good.
Gucci.
We got the head
Good,
Yeah,
good, good.
Yes, hey, he reminded me of Troy Brown for a second. How's everybody doing?
So I had started Rich Dad Poor Dad. Because I think in the midst we had switched the books around, so I had started reading ahead. But some of the principles I took from the Rich Dad Poor Dad is the assets and liabilities that we are taught to buy more liabilities, thinking they are assets. I'm kind of behind, so I don't really know what chapter 3 is. I kind of forgot or the principles, but I'm just going over what I know for right now, and that's why I'm starting first. But the assets and liabilities part really stood out to me the most because we are taught more than often to purchase more liabilities and put ourselves in more debt and thinking that certain ways of living is, in a sense, buying more liabilities and thinking like investing and thinking starting a business is like bad or riskier or whatever. And it really stood out to me, and it was kind of funny that those two kids figuring out how to make something happen by making fake nickels or fake money was so funny to me. Not gonna lie, because they started and they had a vision that they wanted to do. They wanted to make money, so they started doing it. And a lot of people don't start never, or they stay in the rabbit, or they stay in the threshold of go to school, go to college, boom. Nothing wrong with those things, but they stay in that threshold and thinking that's going to be um, the way out and the way of building financial literacy. And another part that stood out to me in the book where I forgot the young man's name, but he's most likely the main character. Um, he was getting frustrated because he was getting paid like $1 or 15 cents an hour, and he kept getting mad, and it kind of stood out to me because I felt like that during working like a 9 to 5 job is just feeling like I'm just stuck in a threshold I couldn't get out of, and I wasn't learning anything. I just going home and making like a band every 2 weeks, and I can make 600 in a week or even more. Um, but it just stood out to me that we put ourselves in those thresholds and don't be willing to learn how to, you know, expand out and try to make more money or make more of an asset for ourselves because it's taught the wrong way. So that's what I got from the reading that I started before, and I really like this book. It's funny to me, and I love it. But yeah,
Hey, is this your first time reading the book, bro?
So, yeah,
Let's go. Okay, bet, bro. Well, I'm excited for you to dive into the lessons 2 and 3 as well as you continue diving into the book. I mean, man, I'm excited except you're learning, but I remember the first time I read that part too about them making the nickels. We talked about it last week. It was actually wild. I'm like,
yeah,
dang, they're out here doing what essentially the Federal Reserve does. It's not
yeah.
even, yeah, so it's wild. But appreciate you sharing, bro. You can popcorn wherever.
Let me see what here. Pat, you can go, Brody.
Oh, okay, sure. Well, I'm at the gym, so I'm gonna turn my camera off because I put my phone on the floor. But sure, I will throw a couple things in. So about you said so chapter 2 and 3, because I just got done reading that and then moved on to um Think and Grow Rich. So, but anyways, so uh you said it was the chapters on mind your own business and the value of financial literacy, right?
Yes.
That's what it was, Marcus.
Yes, sir.
So, so first was the value of financial literacy, which is extremely, I feel like, simplistic because people, they lose track of what they're just, um, they're like growth. They lose track of what they uh, like growing financially, and they get stuck in this system that everybody else, teaches and that the masses follow. We go to school, get good grades, and so that's why. Pretty sure, and then try and get a good job based off of that. And that's pretty much what everybody else is doing, and so but being not financially educated is really what kind of holds you down to that, you know and but as well as they're teaching you in schools, which is there's that prelogue in the book that where basically um that um that lady, the mom and daughter, they talk about, um, she's talking about how she's very financially educated, and they all play that board game together. And so essentially, she like recognizes it because of how much everybody else is struggling in the board game, that he provides for everyone. And so she, as being I think she was an accountant, I believe, and so she's very financially educated. So she has no problem exiting the rat race in the board game, but she definitely sees that how the schooling system, all these other people who have great jobs, and but they're just struggling so hard to get out of the rat race in the board game. Anyways, so to me, that really indicates our society in a whole, and our teachings in school and whatnot, really teaches us not much financial literacy. We get directed towards the path of, you know, being deeper and deeper entrenched in the rat race. And um, that's really like what schools modernly teach, right? And they teach you to, as you just talked about, going into the buying the all the liabilities versus assets, which he dives deeper into later. But school really puts you on that track, right? It teaches us to take out more debt, right, for school, and to go into and get deeper and deeper entrenched in the rat race instead of disconnecting from it. So that's the importance of financial literacy, I think, and that's what he really hit the nail on the head with those things. Um, and then the next one was, what'd you say it was again, Marcus?
Your own business.
Yeah,
Mine.
minding your own business.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
this is my favorite thing because it's like so many people get caught up in, as I've said before, and many people say all the time, is like comparison is the thief of happiness, right? And so we're constantly comparing ourselves to everyone around us instead of focusing on what your plan is, right? So many people take so much time to build this plan, right? And then when it comes to executing it, they turn around and just drop the ball because they're looking at everyone else around them. And so he says as much as like it's a good thing to go around and search through different opportunities and businesses and all sorts of things, right? To move your and advance your life, increase your most valuable asset, which is in between your two ears, right? He says instead of focusing on and minding your own business, it's like we're constantly stuck on everybody else's business. Kind of a reflection of how the US is today, to be honest. It's kind of like we can't mind our own fucking business. But anyways, so that's my opinion on those two chapters. That's what I pulled from it. Um,
And man,
yeah,
Pack,
that's it.
first time in, dropping the bars. Appreciate you, bro.
Yeah,
Appreciate it,
no
man.
problem.
Yes, sir. You can pass
While at the gym,
while at the
I
gym.
guess
Yes, sir.
I'll popcorn to you, Marcus.
Okay, boom. I appreciate that. Let's go. So for chapter two, I think chapter two is one of the more important ones in terms of like black and white. You need to know these things. You know what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of practical things that you can implicate, but time and 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 time again, I be seeing people hear these things but not actually do these things. Like, um, shout out to some of the resources we've been able to have access to help us budget and understand percentages of income that are coming in so that we can delegate what percentages are going where to investments, to savings, to our actual businesses, to assets, and the responsibilities, right? And our bills. So as I started the call off, it's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. I think everybody, especially in today's age of social media and how commerce has really changed over the last 5 years, everybody's just focused on the bag and they're really just trying to figure out what ways can I get the bag. And yes, it's important because you need cash flow. He talks about actually moving the money, right, from your assets um, into more assets rather than taking your income and moving that into liabilities that require you to send your money out on expenses, right? But if you understand that, yes, cash flow is important, then you got to recognize, like, all right, if the main goal is to not just get the money, but to keep the money, is what I'm doing conducive for longevity, right? I think it's important to be hyper focused in what you're doing and how you're earning the income, the money that's coming in. But it's more important that that aligns with the overall big picture where you're trying to go. Otherwise, you're just going to be chasing bag after bag, opportunity after opportunity, thing after thing, community after community, and you're just never going to fully lock in. And I feel like it requires you to have a big picture. He says, if you want to be rich and maintain your wealth, it's important to be financially literate in words as well as numbers. So, in order to understand your cash flow, you should write it out. He literally like gave you diagrams, right? And I don't know if anybody's like done this before, but if you go and sit there and like, okay, what is my income and where is it coming from? What are my expensive assets do I have, or what assets do I want to obtain, and what are my current liabilities? Like you should know those things. If you don't, based on the definitions, like you're not financially literate. So if you want to become financially literate, you've got to do the things that are who says this? Alex Harmozy says this a lot. But bro, y'all, success is nothing fancy, bro. It's really boring. It's people who do the boring stuff consistently over a long period of time with the highest level of excitement and energy over and over and over again, despite what they're going through or what circumstances they're facing. Consistency. Like I promise y'all, just because we got three cameras on and I know the type of leaders these three people are, if you go and look at the progress of their businesses, and then you also look at behind the curtain what the is going on in the background, I promise y'all, the circumstances and situations have not been ideal, but you have to get up and you have to do the things anyways. Period, point blank. And as Gabe said, you study the rich, you study the wealthy, you study wisdom, then you're able to actually apply that. And one, kudos to y'all, Amber, Mikhail. I see y'all apply those principles consistently. And it's dope because we're starting to see fruits of the labor showcase. It's really cool. I just want to take that little moment because we all got reconnected like what? It was like 2 years ago. Just to see the progress is really dope. Just had a little hindsight thought. Okay, but last thing. Okay, cash flow tells the story of how a person handles money. And the question I wanted to ask is, what's your story? You ain't got to tell me, you ain't got to write it in there, but like ask yourself like what's my actual story and where am I spending my money? One thing that Mikhail does, but like it overwhelms me is like you can look at your bank statements, right? And you can highlight like, oh wow, this is how much I'm spending on food every month. What the hell? You know what I'm saying? And I'm not even talking about groceries. I'm talking about you eating out. Or like, yo, I know a lot of people are coffee drinkers in here. How much money are you spending on coffee every month, every week? And I seen a video, dude, of this guy explain how if you were to switch from a latte to a drip coffee, how much money you would save every week on an average person who gets 3 to 4 cups every week. And you'd have an additional, like, almost 4 figures to spend on assets that can turn into assets. And he literally, like, explained how you can become a millionaire by switching your coffee. And he just went over the numbers. It was a really cool aspect that I had never really seen before. Because I've heard of, like, yo, whenever I was in a travel company, and I like to travel all the time. Every 3 months we were going to a personal development event, and y'all know the vibes. I was balling on a budget. You know what I'm saying? I was paycheck to paycheck, paying my way through school. Didn't have much bread to work with. So instead of, I had first started reading this book when I was like 20. Yep. So I was like a sophomore in college, and I was like, you know what? Let me see how much bread I be spending on the Panda Express, the Chick-fil-A, and the Taco Cabana that's in this freaking campus. And then I looked at that number and I was like, no wonder why it's tight when I'm trying to buy flights and hotels and tickets and personal development, investing in myself. So I had to prioritize and I stopped buying that and instead of buying convenient meals, I made sandwiches and I ate sandwiches almost every day in college. So boring. I got really tired of it. I had to switch up from pickles to jalapenos just so that I could be smooth. But the main reason is like I was then able to use my money differently instead of on just getting food or trying to make myself go by. I had that bread I was spending there for flights, for tickets, for an investment in myself. And it's really important to understand what your story is. And it's really biblical. I don't take it surface level at all. I go deep with it. Jesus says that you find a man's treasure there too, you'll find his heart, right? What you're spending your money on, if you're clear and black and white about it, you'll have an idea of what you care about and what you prioritize, and you'll make better decisions as you move forward. Okay, anyways, sorry, I went off a little tangent. Um, bro, there's so much sauce I wanted to cover. Usually, hold on. Uh, Here it is. Okay, this was what he was talking about in terms of he goes, it was pretty confusing at first, but after reading it, it began to make some sense. Wealth is a person's ability to survive so many number of days forward, or if I stopped working today, how long could I survive? Right? He was like, later on the next page, he goes, I am not yet rich. I am wealthy. I now have income generated from assets each month that fully cover my monthly expenses. If I want to increase my expenses, I must first increase my cash flow to maintain this level of wealth. As a reminder, y'all should be living beneath your means. If you're not wealthy and where you want to be, there's no reason to be excessive. You go look at the wealthy people. Yes, go have experiences. Yes, go put yourself in the environment and go and buy that drink and put yourself there. You know what I'm saying? That stuff actually works. But what I'm saying is like your expenses should be minimal as you are working on increasing your cash flow. And I think that's something that gets overlooked. And if you understand that concept, you'll be able to rationalize the actions and decisions you're taking when it comes to managing your income. The last
Marcus just got in feed. I thought it was me until I seen Amber. We gotta hop on the phone. Definitely the vibes. It might take him 2 minutes to realize though, because he's in tune, y'all. So if somebody else would like to go, floor's open. Or I guess I could take it since I'm about to be at my barbershop anyway. So in that, what up, though? It's so funny that man is just frozen looking down.
Yo,
But in that, one, I appreciate everybody pulling up today this morning. This book is definitely one of one, and these two chapters are phenomenal. Go for it. Chapter three was all about just literally understanding the difference between assets and liabilities, if I'm not mistaken. It's not jumbled up in my head. But when he talks about the difference, like ultimately, y'all, it all comes down to this. I'm gonna keep it simple and sweet because I'm almost here. An asset is literally something that makes you money. A liability is literally something that takes your money. The process of building a asset, it literally takes you focused on liability activities. You know what I'm saying? You literally got to spend money in order to make money. That's how it goes. But also, a lot of people really get the game kind of confused. And I like what Marcus kind of just got cut off talking about when he was talking about how, or excuse me, I don't even know if this was what he was talking about, but ultimately, there's three different types of people in the world. There's poor people when it comes to finances. There's poor people. Poor people literally think that the use of money is just to be spent. Then there's middle class people. Middle class people make money so that they can pay off credit in order to use credit to buy things that make them look like they make more money to people who really don't care. And then there's the third type of people who are wealthy people who literally just use their dollars to go and make more dollars. They cover their minimal expenses, and then from there, they go look at other ways to make money. Period. They build assets. What is an asset? Like I said, it's a thing that makes you money. That can be an intellectual property. That can be a car based business. Okay. Car based business, not just the car. Okay. Car liability, not an asset. Literally depreciates in value as soon as you roll off the lot, no matter if you bought it used, no matter if you bought it new. Period. When it comes to things like our home, unless you're renting it out for an Airbnb or unless you are literally getting some money from it and it's actually making costing you any, it is a literal liability. Period. So in this space, what I love that we do is that we show each other how to make intellectual property, show each other how to build courses, how to build a brand, how to literally create digital products as well that you can sell online. That's literally the process of building an online asset. But then there's also this trading skill set, and I feel like a lot of people low key get it confused because this skill set is not an asset; it's a skill set. Period. And then furthermore, is he money in the waiting room? She sure is. My bad. Money? Hold on. She hit me on the gram and said, let me in. I'm like, hold on. My fault. My fault, Imani. My apologies, sis. My apologies.
Just left me hanging, boy.
My apologies. But yeah, to that last point, y'all, like when it comes to just building an asset, especially in the trading space, like, yo, you trading is not you building an asset, nor is your trading account an asset. Okay. It's literally just capital. Trading is a tool. That skill set is a tool that you can literally use to go and buy an income producing asset, period. And that's literally the point. And I believe that's one thing that I'd like to drive home, continuously drive home, as well as one thing that he was driving home as well. Like, yo, if you are spending bread, can I make it to that exit? Nope, there was no way I was getting there. I definitely tried it though. I ain't gonna lie to you. I had to hit 100. Somebody kind of cut me off. But with that though, it's crazy, man, because truly I'm grateful for this book. I just watched a video on Myron Golden where he was literally just talking about this. I had it sent to me this morning. One of my buddies posted it. And honestly, it makes the most of a difference when you can just actually live intentionally. And most people do not do that with their finances. They don't sit down, they don't write down their assets versus their liabilities. I have a whole note where I keep track of every single thing that I can make money from. Because out of sight, out of mind, you might forget about a whole tool and resource that you have access to, and then you'll be in a conversation and walk yourself right out of an opportunity to be able to make some bread because you don't know what you have. So in that, that's one thing why I always stay focused on my ways to make money. I also stay focused on the things that we can do in order to make more money as well. Not just income producing wise, but literally like, hey, bro, where can we sit some bread? Right? What platform can we learn about? Or what real estate investment do we need to gear up and save up for so that we can actually go get to these things? And I'm excited to be partnered with everybody in the squad because I know that we literally have a whole investment group together. I got a squad that I can go to, like, hey, y'all, let's put our heads together, let's figure something out. And we can literally do that. We've been able to put on events together where we've all been able to come out profitable. We've been able to put on different things, different investment routes as well. So it's just as much being a part of a great network and people who actually know what they're doing. Like, shout out to Richest Man in Babylon. Seek wise counsel, seek wise advice, people who actually know what they're doing and get in the space with them and actively participate. But in that, don't forget to like, don't just spend all your bread. Don't just keep on doing shit. You literally got to spend or excuse me, intentionally, live intentionally. The reason why I haven't paid taxes and I literally haven't had a job in damn near 6 years is because for the last 6 years, I've been living intentionally, intentional as hell, period. And shout out our CPA, you know what I'm saying? Shout out Marcus, shout out Reggie, OG Triple OG. But in that, it's literally because we live intentionally. The way that you make money has to be intentional. The way that you create tax breaks in your life, it has to be intentional. And when you're thinking of assets and you're naturally reinvesting into assets, we live in a country where that is literally incentivized in our tax code. So you've got to actually study these things as an entrepreneur so that you can further on progress in your journey, in your life, and actually go get to the next level. Because if you don't know nothing, you won't create nothing. You'll keep on doing the same shit over and over again, expecting a different result. And you'll never actually get to the result that's actually desired because you haven't taken the time to just really get attention. So that's my little TED talk for the day. Appreciate y'all tuning in. I'm pulling up. Marcus, back to you, Blair.
What's up, y'all? I think our Wi-Fi went out because the Zoom like literally just disappeared. I was like, where did everybody go? And then I seen the recording start converting, so I apologize. But I guess this one is gonna be one of them ones where you had to be here. Sorry.
Whole call at home. I had a feeling over in the game.
Oh, you recorded it. Let's go. Shout out the Lord. Look at that. Team. I just knew you were on the go, you were leaving, so I didn't think it crossed your mind because I clicked it. But bet I appreciate that. And those are bars. I'm kind of upset I missed the front half of your bars, so I'm definitely gonna catch the recording now. But um I'll just wrap it up with it because I honestly don't even remember what I was still saying because I started trying to figure out this computer issue. But into chapter 3, when he talks about I have the study session part of the book, but I really liked the aspect where he said build your asset columns and then let the income generated by those assets pay for the luxuries. feel like we live in a very materialistic world. So everybody wants the nice things, and the nice things are definitely worth having, especially if your assets can afford them. But most of the time, people don't even have assets, so they shouldn't even be buying luxuries. He said, when your assets generate enough income to cover the luxuries, that's when you can buy them. Then he's telling his right hemisphere, think creatively about what your business is. It's not your profession. And then a subconscious moment is acquire the type of assets you love because you will take better care of them and enjoy learning about them. Right? He listed all the assets as well that you can invest into, from businesses that do not require your presence. I own them, but they are managed or run by other people. Stocks, bonds, income generating real estate. I love how he put income generating real estate, because a lot of people confuse their home that they buy as an asset when it is actually a liability. You just signing a contract with the bank to pay them continuously until you pay that thing off. And usually people's mortgages get skyrocketed because of how the market flows, right? You got to be on the other side of that. Notes, I'll use royalties from intellectual property such as music, scripts, and patents. Shout out the conversation we've been having recently. And then anything else that has value, produces income, or appreciates and has a ready market. Y'all, I just love the assets that I'm invested in. And it helps me remind myself to check on them, to continuously put stuff into them. And when I've understood like the $50 to $100 that I could be spending on maybe an extra two things at the grocery store, or a nice meal out, or a new thing for my room, like something small. I instead have been throwing that into my assets and my investments, and I've been able to see that accumulate over time. And we're gearing up for some of the biggest actual bull runs in history as well. So, I've just focused on, all right, let me just move the tool that I have, this capital, into things that will bring me more income producing um, cash flow, but also opportunities as you have more options with more income. It's a very simple concept, but it's wild how look, it says financial struggle is often the result of people working all their lives for someone else. Um, and a thought that came in my brain, I was like, financial struggle is often the result of people working all their lives for someone else, or being too lazy to do the things they know they need to do. I was like, that came in my brain as like a thought process. Cause I know so many people, and it used to like tick me off and frustrate me because it made no sense as why I wanted them to be wealthy more than they wanted to be wealthy themselves. And it frustrated me because they would say the things that they want. We're intentional. We talk about the long-term goals, and then they'd much rather just waste time. My bro, I came to a point where I'm like, stop wasting my time. So I just take notes when I observe, and I keep it moving. And I ain't got time for anything else, bro, because as he said, as your emotional state increases, your financial intelligence decreases. And I've got to make sure, and I've been doing this on a very intentional, subconscious way, to where like as I was reading that, I'm like, bro, shout out our community, shout out Robert Kiyosaki, and shout out Marcus. I just gave myself some props because I'm like, I'm doing the things and we're doing everything he's saying, and it's about to showcase. And every time I read this book, it's like the fifth time, y'all. It reminds me of exactly how much I've grown. And I just encourage y'all, like, if you've not at all attempted to apply some of these principles in any way, shape, or form, like now is the time. And we're running out of time, is my point. I don't think I've been like very as stern as I could have been over the last couple years in regards to this, because I've seen people who know these principles go back to old ways of habits, financial spending, and ways of living. But that doesn't dictate what I do. And I know that as long as you're the example, you can showcase that it's possible. Um, he says, after you've taken the time and invested and built your own business, you are now ready to learn the biggest secret of the rich. And that's when he comes into chapter 4, but I kind of got ahead of myself. Just I love how chapter 3 and 4 kind of correlate. So we might be going back and forth in the concepts of that in terms of taxes, because it's definitely a game changer. But yeah, like start minding your own business. I've always got taught by mentors, like mind the business that pays you. Why the hell are you worried about Love Island? I don't give a damn. Like, cool. But like people be trying to talk to me about that, y'all. People literally be trying to talk to me about that. I don't even entertain it. I'm so focused on how to get my income every month to be $1 more than the expenses that are required of me, because that's financial freedom. That's what he actually defines it as. That's what he is gearing y'all to actually utilize. And I feel like if you know that money is this concept, like we talked about from chapter one, shout out Gabe for bringing up the nickel story. But if you know money is this construct that is agreed upon in society, and the dollar is essentially not real, it's not even backed by gold anymore, but we still hold the value to it. You guys can literally create that income. And now it's been more simple than ever. But remind yourself, it's not only the fact that you'll be in this financial struggle if you're only working for somebody else all the time, but it's also if you're too lazy to do the things you want to distract yourself. And I'm telling y'all, like, now is not the time. Now is not the time. If you want to do that, do your thing. But like, it is not the time, y'all. Things are changing rapidly. The AI and tech force is about to replace the entire workforce. So the financial struggle is going to go crazy. Y'all, they got doctors operating robots for surgery. Like, this is like in different industries. I'm not just talking about cars driving themselves or self-checkout HEBs and Walmarts, right? A lot of the stuff that he talked about in hindsight of what happened 20 years ago compared to when I bought this book, because this is a pretty old book, in 2016. Y'all, we're in 2025. Time is not going any slower. I'm like, dude, it was just 2016 yesterday. And then in that process, yeah, I'm wrapping up. I apologize. But that was my little tangent. I just want y'all to be honest with yourself. Like, what is this? Like he said, right? Your cash flow is your story, and it tells you exactly where your focus is at. What's your story? Do the things of mapping out your income, your expenses, list the assets that you're already invested in, list the assets you want to get invested into, and then understand what liabilities you tied yourself in and see exactly where your cash flow is going. Once you have an idea of where you're at, then you can plan where you want to go. But most people just try to go and get wealthy and they have no idea what they're doing. And what blows my mind is everybody wants the nice stuff, but no one wants to do the boring work. No one wants to put in the time. So just put in the time and understand that, hey, let me not be my own blocker of my blessing. Feel like most people just need to get out their own way. And yeah, I'm gonna be very unapologetic as I move forward. I think I have been, but in a very real way, because I love my people and I love y'all enough to really hold us to another standard, because it's not a game, and I'm tired of seeing people struggle. And it's not due to people just working for somebody else. It's also due to a lack of a willingness to do different things because you're afraid or because it's hard or it takes some mental thinking power. So do the work. I'm gonna pass this thing over to Powerful Creator herself. I appreciate y'all. Shout out Mikhail for recording. Shout out everybody for staying patient with my technical difficulties. And I love y'all.
Thank you so much, Marcus. That was super fire. I love how you brought up Love Island, because I was literally thinking about that. The same thing recently, because I had a moment where like it was on, it was just like popping up everywhere. And then I remember for 1 second I was like, okay, like I'm very particular with the stuff that I allow myself to watch. And like sometimes I'll watch something and it'll take me like 6 months to like get through it, because I'll watch like an episode randomly, like one time a week. And I remember thinking about that with Love Island. And I was like, okay, I guess it could be like entertaining, whatever. And then I had just clicked on like what episode everyone was talking about, and it was episode 12. And I was like, you got me messed up. I'm not watching 12 hours of nothing of that to catch up with. I was like, no. I'm doing 12 hours of anything. It's this book, it's something else. I was like, no. It's like I guess I just want to know what's going on. Which is fine. Um, but yeah, okay. So this chapter, why teach financial literacy? So one of the biggest things that I've learned recently and really started to just continue to dissect is what it keeps talking about is understanding and learning financial literacy. And how he keeps talking about it's not about how much money you make, it's you how much you multiply, and how much you can keep, and how much you can multiply and work for you. And that's really, really important, because at the end of the day, like every single one of us, if you're on this call, then you're a hard worker. You're somebody who is going after it, and like, so the ability to make money, like actually make money, isn't like a question for us. You know what I mean? Like we could do whatever it is that we need to do, right? Serve tables, walk dogs, like deliver groceries. It's about how we're able to use that money, and like actually learn how to grow it. And I know for myself, like I grew up with a family that worked really, really, really hard. Like everybody in my family has extremely good work ethic. I believe I have really good work ethic. Like I've always worked. I've always had 2 or 3 jobs. I've always had money coming in. But learning how to manage that money, learning how to multiply that money, learning how to have a budget, learning any type of financial literacy was not something that was a part of my life. I didn't have anybody in my family setting an example for that. And so, like, taking the time to learn, like, being financially literate is something that we have to make a decision in, and personally decide to invest into that, into ourselves all the time. And so, one of the things he talked about was financial aptitude. And he said that financial aptitude in this chapter is your ability to apply what you've learned, track where your money goes, and build wealth through cash flow, through investing assets, and not just income. And so, really just like understanding that. And so, what I did for myself, and I'll share this with y'all, like I'm a very kinesthetic learner, I have to see things. And so, I made a little folder in my Google Drive with that's called financial IQ. And in the chapter, he talks about the different broad areas of financial IQ. And so what I did was I made like different folders in my Google Drive with those different areas. So one area is accounting and money management. Another one is investing. Another one is money markets and money psychology. Another one is law, taxes, and financial structure. So, or like the law. And he talks about that later in the book. And so what I did was I organized a bunch of my like money information and resources that I gathered throughout the years and organized it, because I feel like, over the years we gather a bunch of information, like we're on this call, we're reading this book, we take courses, we're showing up, but if we don't know how to use this stuff, like actually use it, like actually know when it applies into our life. Like, for example, I don't know if it's this one or maybe it's a couple chapters later, but he starts to go into taxes and starts to go into corporations and stuff like that. When you really do the work, like we have to really start to understand like where we are, and actually take time to sit down with ourselves and really say like, where am I, and when does this information apply to me? And that kind of work is more than just listening to a book. It's more than just getting on a book club, every Saturday. It's like taking time after doing all of that and really pay attention to yourself and taking real time to answer those questions for yourself. And so yeah, so that was one of the first things, is like financial literacy is the foundation. That's what he keeps mentioning over and over and over again. He's like, it's easy if you have a strong foundation. And so one thing that I decided for myself through reading this book is I am somebody who's going to have a strong financial foundation. And so I say that word a lot. Like I literally say the words like, I have a strong financial foundation all the time. Like, thank you, God, for my strong financial foundation. I am building a strong financial foundation, because we have to start to get familiarized with those words and those concepts within ourselves, and start to identify as people who are financially literate, and really start to speak about ourselves like that, because that just helps in the process of us building ourselves and unlearning certain things, because one thing that we have to understand is like the power of our mind and the power of the way that we think about ourselves. If we've grown up not being financially literate, knowing that that's our story, knowing that that's where I came from, we have to do the work to change that, right? And the way that you change your belief, the way that you change your thought is just the way that you change a belief is just a thought you think over and over and over and over again, right? And so I had a belief for a long time and a thought and like an identity of the fact that I wasn't financially literate, that my family, I didn't have those resources. I didn't know my family wasn't financially literate. So it was hard. And that's why I don't have the things that I want, right? Now that I know better, now that I have access to the resources, stepping into my power, changing that language, changing that conversation with myself and say, no, I am somebody who has the resources. I am somebody who is financially literate, who continuously educates herself with financial literacy, and anybody can take that on, and I believe that all of us are doing that. We're taking on that identity. We're taking on this new foundation for ourselves. So that was point one in the chapters. Another point in this first chapter is understanding the difference between assets and liabilities. Before this book, I had no idea what that was at all. And so through studying this book, I really learned. And honestly, I've just been like obsessed. Income producing assets. An asset puts money into your pocket. A liability puts money out, takes money out. The simple definition is one of the most important things we study in this chapter, and it's core financial literacy. So like really understanding and sitting with ourselves and understanding what are liabilities, right? Like what is something that's really going to help me grow, like really help me grow, right? And so one of the things that he said in the chapter was the poor only have expenses, the middle class has liabilities they think are assets, and the rich have assets. So in my work, I sat down and I asked myself, well, what are these liabilities that I think are assets? And it's in like my notes somewhere, but the only reason I'm saying that is to sit down and do that work for yourself. Like sit down and use your resources. And what I mean by your resources, particularly in this moment in time, is using ChatGPT and AI. You can really use that to coach yourself. You can literally ask it like to coach you and to walk you through these processes, and learn from it. To me, it's been a huge lifesaver. And that's one thing too I want to bring up, because it's about the way that we think about it. Like Marcus had said, like AI is going to take over, and it is, and it's nothing to fear. We have to understand that. We have to get that AI is taking over. We cannot go into this fear mindset, this negative, pessimistic, cynicism, cynic, I don't know what the word is, mindset of being afraid of AI. We can use it, right? We are going to use it. We are the rich. We are the rich people they're talking about, right? You have to identify yourself as that. I do, right? I'm going to use AI to help me learn, help me build, help me multiply and expand what it is that I have, because I'm not in no way going to identify as struggling. You know what I mean? And there are people that are. There's going to be people out here who are going to make excuses and say like, oh, there's no job or there's no nothing because AI is taking over. And it's just they're thinking about it like that, right? Either they're choosing to think about it like that, or maybe they just don't know, right? And it's not our job to go out here and make anybody do anything, but it's our jobs to be leaders and be leaders by example, not telling somebody else what to do, by being an example of that, right? Like literally utilizing it for ourselves and actually having results that are from that, and coming from a place, because honestly it's fear, and it's not like just straight ignorance and just straight like resistance. A lot of people are scared of what they don't know. And so I'm gonna move on to chapter 4, minding your own business. I really like this because one of the first takeaways is focus on one thing until you master it. And for me, this was a really big deal, because when it comes to like social media, when it comes to the world, there's a bunch of noise. There's always like something to do. There's lots of ways to make money, like lots of ways. The ways to make money is not scarce. There's literally an abundant amount of ways to make money. And so if we are not focused, if we don't focus on minding our business, on knowing what it is that we like to do, on how we want to create assets, on how we want to do it, then like there's always going to be something else, right? Something else is always going to catch our attention, so we have to do that work to sit down and ask ourselves, like, what do I like to do? What kind of assets can I generate, can I create from what I like to do, you know? And another thing is like sitting down, asking yourself, right? And we, you know, this is a faith-based community. And so one thing I really do is like sit down with source and sit down and ask yourself, like, what are my gifts? What are some things that I like, right? And then once you're clear on that within yourself and who you are, right, doing your own spiritual and emotional work, then utilizing your resources and asking like AI, ChatGPT, your friends or other people who are financially literate, like what assets can I make, can I create from my gifts, from my talents, from what it is that I'm interested in, you know, and asking you shall receive. You will find the answer. It's out here, you know. Okay. And it may not be something like you absolutely love, but what's something that you're interested or something that you like. Like he does talk about this later in the book because I'm reading this book like as well, and I'm in this other chapter. He basically talks about how like whenever he brings up investing into real estate, there's people who are like, well, I don't want to clean toilets, and he's like, what makes you think I want to? Why are we talking about cleaning freaking toilets? I'm over here talking to you about creating generational wealth, and you're talking about you don't want to clean a toilet. I don't know about y'all, but I will clean a toilet if I'm creating an asset. Like I'm not like, come on, you know what I mean? But some people have that mindset of like, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Like, do you want to get up and go to work every single day until you're 100? Like, no, you know. So let's, you know, we have to get our egos out of it. It's not going to be perfect, but you know, there are things that we like for example, you know, us, we learn about stocks and you know, using that as a tool and forex and stuff, right? That's not always fun, right? It's not always fun, but we're willing to do it. We're willing to sit down and put down the work because we want to create generational wealth. It is what it is, right? So what are you willing to that is fun? Okay, so the next thing is what I talked about that. And that's really it. It's just like focusing on one thing, keeping your head down, and like not focusing on the noise. And that's one thing for me recently I've been taking into more consideration, like just learning more. Like we have to understand like social media and marketing, like there's always going to be someone out here who believes that what they're doing is the way to do it because that is what is true for them. And that's what marketing is. You know what I mean? It's saying something, saying like their same point over and over and over again in different ways. So there's always going to be leaders out here who have the next best thing, who have a system that's working for themselves, you know, as they should. And so instead of us being like, I don't know what to do, you know, us just again doing the work to tune into what we are focused on in this season of our lives and then focusing on that. And then when we're clear on that and we're like complete with that and we, you know, built an asset, we've built, you know, building blocks where we want to expand, then doing that then. Like, for example, right now I'm for my assets and my tools, I'm focused on like my trading accounts and like, you know, like building my accounts and stuff. But one thing that I do eventually want to expand in is like real estate, you know, and I don't want to focus on that right now, but I do know like in my lifetime, I will. That's not for this season though, right? So the reason why I'm saying that is because I know that's something that I want to do eventually. So I joined this like Facebook group of like real estate investors, but not because I want to get involved with it, just because I like wanted to plant that seed to be a part of this community. So whenever I am ready, you know, I have that there and I could dip into it. But recently they've been like calling me and they're just calling me just because they want to get to know me. They want to know how they can help me, this and that. But I haven't been answering the phone because I'm not focused on that right now. I'm like, I literally just joined the community so I could like be a part of it and plant that seed for later, right? But I'm not focused on that. So I'm like, I know y'all want to help me, but I am like, when I am ready, I will come, you know? So it's not about not having FOMO because a lot of times we think like, oh my God, like there's only opportunities right here, right now, you know? But the thing is like he said, there's always going to be opportunity, always, 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 you know? And so let's focus on our craft right now, focus on those opportunities, expand our mind. And so when we built structure, we've built more financial foundation, we have the ability to take advantage of more opportunities, right? And that's what he talks about. Financial literacy gives you more options. And that's like, I'm just going to end it with this. Like, financial literacy is not just about numbers. It's about, you know, it's about your life. It's about building your life. It's about having more peace. Like when he talked about cash flow, like the game, that game literally just makes you choose. Like it puts you in position to choose different options, and based on your financial literacy, you have those different options, right? And so it's about what you're going to do with it, right? So it's not something that we can't get. It's not something that's, unavailable to us. It's just something for us to learn over time, and so I say, like, one action step is really us. I think it's really important for every single one of us, and this is like something I'm practicing in my life as well, and I'm doing it more intentionally, is like every single day, minimum of 15 minutes of one financial literacy um intake, I guess, whether it's a podcast, whether it's 15 minutes of a book, but something that has to do with financial literacy every day for the rest of our lives. All right, guys, I'm gonna end it off with that, and I'm gonna click on our new Sasero. I don't know how to say your first name. I'm sorry.
Beautiful. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Appreciate the take.
So I just read chapter one. And I did some notes here. So that what I got out of it was pretty interesting. When the kids were thinking about how they were going to make money and create a business, and they figured out a way, they kept that secret to themselves. And I think that's important. It stood out for me because as as I was growing up, I was taught, work hard and get good grades and, save and get a house. And sometimes we have these dreams, visions, and ambitions that not everybody understands, especially coming from a old traditional household where you're supposed to really work hard and just save your money and work hard. And other people don't understand what you have in your heart, what you really want to do in life, and you got to really keep that to yourself and just pursue those passions and those ambitions. And it reminded me of a scripture, like David. When David got anointed, he couldn't tell nobody that he was anointed by the prophet Samuel, right? He had to keep that to himself. If he did, he would have been, he would have been taken out, right? So he had to keep that secret, and to keep, man, to keep a secret, like, hey, God picked me to be over this nation, right? It's got to be very tough to hold that in, right? And then to secretly serve, knowing that you're next in line. I think that was pretty profound, that whatever you're going through, and there's something in your heart that you want to really drive to do and to be better. So sometimes you got to keep it to yourself and not tell everybody, because there's people out there to put some salt on it or something like that. So you really have to be careful who you share your dreams and your visions to. Another part that stick out, and I just read chapter one. I'm not sure we're supposed to read two, three, or four. I just read chapter one. Was when the mindset of the kids of what being rich meant to them as materialistic, right? And I think that stood out for me too. That sometimes you have to, sit back and think, and evaluate your life, and kind of, tell yourself what is important in your life, what to you is most important. And to me, it's time, right? Time that I have with my kids, the time that I have doing the things that I love to do. I like to serve, I like to study. So yeah, to regain that time and not be like just working all the time, to drive to where you have that time. I'm in a couple other mentorships too, and they always talk about, creating assets, buying real estate, and let that real estate pay for your financial needs. So yeah, that kind of stuck out to me. I thought that was pretty profound. I'm pretty sure there's some more in chapter two and chapter three. I haven't got into it, but those are just the two big factors that stood out for me, and just having a better mindset about not having that slave mentality, or having that fear, or a greed mentality of, clocking in, being just Joe punch clock your rest of your life. And not that to say that's wrong, but there's got to be an end goal for the reason why you're working so hard. So I thought that was pretty good. So that's all I got. It was plain and simple. And I'll go ahead and give it over to who else hasn't gone? Chi-Town?
Hey guys, what's up? I'm gonna turn my camera for now. I look crusty and dusty and all that good stuff. But hey guys, one, yeah, everyone touched base on everything that each chapter from 1 to 4 really has said. But one thing that really stuck out to me and it kind of made me happy, and I know this is gonna sound crazy. Rock with me on this one. My favorite part, and especially in chapter 3, was the fact that I'm gonna say it. Charles Schwab died broke. And I know that sounds crazy. Like, why are you excited that he died broke? That gave me so much confidence in knowing that it's not about money. It doesn't matter how much money you have. Like you said earlier, it's not about how much money you have, it's about how much money you keep. Just because you have money doesn't make you financially literate. Just because you have it doesn't mean you know what to do with it or you're going to put it in the right places. And it gave me the confidence because a little bit about me, I had a full time and a part time income. I was middle class and I was living paycheck to paycheck, and the math was not mathing. Like, I didn't understand why until one day I really stopped and looked at the bank statement. There should not be $150 to $200 balance left after making like 4 or 5 figures, if that makes sense. So it's just understanding the numbers and understanding that just because you have it, one, don't mean to spend it, but also just because you have it doesn't make you financially literate. So it showed me, one, everyone goes through different things in life, and just because you go through that, that doesn't mean you're guaranteed to end up on top if you're, just not making the right moves. And like Amber said, it starts with the solid, strong foundation. And once you have a solid foundation, there's not much, even if like things drop, things crack, things fall, there's not much that would be torn apart once that foundation is built and as solid as it is. So that's one thing I definitely took from the financial literacy. Like, you always have to learn, you always have to grow. There's no such thing as I know it all, because you'll never know it all, especially in finances. Everything's changing. And one major thing is like y'all said before, assets versus liabilities, and the construct of thinking that your home, the one that you live in, is an asset, is the biggest running joke in American history. Like, that is the biggest liability there is, next to the vehicle you think is worth anything after you drive it off the lot, you know? So it's just, flipping the flipping the board, turning things around, understanding what an asset is and how assets actually put money in your pocket, or actually it helps you build a larger asset portfolio if you put money in the right places, versus having liabilities, looking like you have it all together and looking like you're feeling like you're good and you're really not, right? I think one major thing about working and not building, leading into chapter 4, working and not really building or focusing on my own businesses while working, was the idea that because I had money coming in, my businesses were good. So when I left the full-time income, because money was coming in on both sides and it was time to, really lock in, it really showed me, once I looked at the numbers, the business wasn't really good because the income coming from the job was supplying the business and the business wasn't thriving on its own. So just knowing how to focus and as they say, mind your own business, it was a major transformation in my life, because I went from depending on a paycheck to really depending on myself. And it teaches you a lot, because when you have to depend on yourself, well, I depend on God. Let me give him the glory. But depending on God and the tools God gave you directly, it changes your perspective of what you think you need and what you think you can and cannot do. So that's really what I take away from 3 and 4. And I think going back to chapter 1 when he was, making money and stuff like that, I think the biggest inspiration is like finding deep down, like not only what you want, but what you can do within. When we get very creative, when we don't know what to do, or if we need something and we don't know how to grasp that or build that with what we have now. We get very creative. It's either fight or flight kicks in. So when the fight kicks in and you figure out deep down, like, hey, what do I love? What do I want to do? What do I really want? What am I really good at? And you hone those skills, the money really just comes to you. Honestly, you don't have to chase anything. So that's just what I take away from it. And I think, is that everybody? Did everybody go? Imani didn't go. Shout out Imani.
Good morning, everyone. I hope everybody is doing fantastic today. So chapters 1 and 2. Let me just do this real quick. And okay, I'm done. I have notes on my post-it today. It's been a busy morning. So okay, so chapter 2. Chapter 2. Okay, so what I got out of chapter 2 was I think a lot of different new perspectives that I didn't get, which is crazy because this is my third time reading the book that I've always been very excited to read. I have always been very excited to read. So that was a play at last week. Anyways, just kidding. So it's just really interesting to hear this perspective this time because I think I understand a lot more. And don't laugh at me, y'all, but like low key, this kind of reminds me of Star Wars. I don't know if y'all know Star Wars like this, but Anakin, he's like this guy, he's Darth Vader, right? He started off like just a kid, wanting to save his mom, slave type thing, right? And then he becomes a Jedi Padawan. So now he's training to be a Jedi. Throughout this time, like as he gets older, he starts having like these nightmares about his mom being killed. So he starts moving in fear. And because of this fear, he starts making like these crazy decisions. And like, we love Anakin. He is like, he's literally the Jesus of Star Wars. Like, he's actually compared to Jesus. I'm not going to lie. And he didn't have a father. He was born of like, okay, I'm getting too far off. Let me reel it back in and tie it together because Star Wars is my jam. So he's having these dreams, but he's also falling in love with Padme. And Jedis are not supposed to be in relationships. So now his desires and his fears are just becoming like this nasty little thing. He starts making these crazy decisions. Then he goes to try to save his mom because his mom he kept having those dreams. Yeah, she ended up dying. And then he killed all these things. I can't remember what they're called. Okay, fast forward, because he's in so much fear of losing what he has gained. He's made all these accomplishments. He's fallen in love. He's gotten married. He has kids on the way. And the fear just basically overruns his life. Bam, he ends up going to the dark side. So that is literally what this book was talking about in these chapters. It's like people make these decisions based out of fear, but they're not the decisions that are going to give them that glory that they're wanting, that security. And he talks about how the rich dad talks about how, oh, I forgot her name. She was she sounded like a sweet old lady who's been working for him for years, but he knew that the only reason why like she's working is because it's out of fear of not being able to, whatever it is, take care of your family, have consistent income coming in. People are too focused on their income column, not their asset column. So they're not moving in, I guess, in just like with focus to the assets, knowing that you know how to make money. Thank you, Marcus. With intention, learning the skills to make money on your own. So why I said this perspective is new to me is because when I was looking for work, because I had blown through my savings. Anyways, I was looking through work and I realized that I only had skills for a certain kind of job, which is based off of social, customer service, and so and so. So I've been in retail for years. I've worked with children, which I'm not doing that no more. And then I've worked with, and then now I work in property management. And because of these skills, I can only do so much for right now. But on the back end, I'm gaining more and more skills that helps me in other areas. But it sucks because when I was going back to work, I was battling with myself about like, okay, well, property management is great. It's going to pay me the most. So here I am because I know now it's because my skills have not gotten to the point where I am more confident in making additional passive income outside. I am not focused on my asset column as much as I should be. Have I started gaining that now? Absolutely. Just from reading it last week, I was reminded, like, oh, yeah. And reading it this week is like reinforcing that awareness of, okay, now I can continue to focus on my asset column. I'm set up in a way that is like I can not stress. It's like knowing yourself. Knowing yourself is really important, knowing how you operate, because we are all so vastly different. And I think what he mentions that keeping up with the Joneses, okay? Keeping up with other people's desires, they're not our own. We do not all learn the same. Mikkel mentioned trading as a tool. I love and respect that perspective. Personally, it does not make me happy. Like Marcus was saying, with your asset column, have assets that you actually enjoy. So I realized for me, I definitely love investing in real estate, and there's so many different avenues of real estate investment that can create passive income, and it makes me really happy. So I'm like, okay, I know now, after so long of just personal development, shout out to the groups, and I have realized that it's okay to like know yourself, know who you are, and use that to your advantage and trust your instinct. So when I trade, my eyes just go like three different ways. But when I real estate invest, it's like a whole different thing. Like I'm passionate, it makes me happy, and I can learn trends about like stuff that I want to do in the long term. And I'm not saying I would never
Is it
trade,
just
but it
me?
would be
Oh,
something that I would do in pieces rather than trying to like, you know, just like simply focus on it. Like I need something to get me hooked now so I can build the momentum. And that's the most important thing. Trusting your instincts, don't trust your fears. Like, hey, I'm going to operate however I want to. So then he also talks about like when you are trusting your instincts and not trusting other people, who are you getting your financial information from? Who are you learning from? A lot of our politicians don't know nothing about finances. And he even mentions, well, I think this was in chapter 1, but just the fact that he mentions like how the US is on the path of global, economic fall. Like the empire is falling because the gap between the haves and the have-nots are so wide. So it's so important to get down to what is important for an individual and not for a million different people. It is time to lock in on the things that you want, your love, your desires, and move in light rather than just like fear that you're going to lose everything. Like at this point, oh well, lose it. He actually, I think that goes into chapter 3 when he starts talking about minding your business. And at one point, he sells hella possessions. What did he say? The Armani suit, some golf clubs. He just wanted some liquid assets. He did not have attachments to those items. He sold it in a heartbeat to grow his income, his asset column. I mean, they were still trying to deny him, but he's like, people, not everybody understands the kind of like money he's making. He's making some real life-changing, long-term financial decisions. So yes, he may have sold an Armani suit, but he's gonna get it back because he's using that money to make more money. He also name drops UT, which I can't even remember why, but I just wanted to throw that out there because I live in Austin and I did not live in Austin the first time I read this book. So I was like, oh, okay. Anyways, so then he talks about profession versus business and how schools teach people to, like I said earlier with my profession, like I know what I'm good at and I'm still learning how to gain more skills outside of the professions that I'm used to. So I can have like a much larger asset column. It's cute, but I want it to be like a beast. You feel me? I don't want it to be all cute and cuddly. I want it to roar and make people like, come on. So learning these, just like acknowledging that I currently, my full time is a profession, and that's okay because as long as I continue to develop and focus on my asset column, I have no choice but to win. And Marcus, you're 100% right. Like, there is no time to play around. One, life goes by really fast. Next thing you know, we're all 155, and then we're just like trying to figure out like what's going on. But even at that age, you're still like, damn, life went by really fast. On top of that, there's just a lot of economic stress going on. People are stressed and moving in fear, and the gap is getting wider and wider. So it's really time to like hone in on a person's self and skills, and then also outward expression. Like he mentions that, I think in his, I could be thinking about several other books, but like just giving it back, and helping other people get to this point, because it's just really critical at this point for everybody to really just be, honestly, I think it's just like straight happiness, like straight being completely happy with yourself, your authentic self, your who you are supposed to be, that potential that we have been talking about for the past couple weeks. Very important stuff, and I definitely appreciate y'all. So thank you. I think everybody has gone, so I'm just gonna pass it back to Mark. Goes unless Patrick, have you gone?
Yeah, Pat was like the second person to go. And man
All
spit the
right,
ball.
I've been at work, y'all.
Tone. It's all good. It's all good. I appreciate you, sis, for the energy and the Star Wars reference because it's for real, not for play. I got hype. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, yes, let's go. Because there is a lot of one, if you really pay attention to those movies, it's really how the governments be working and everything's bread, y'all. So anyways, I'm excited to see you guys implement these things. I challenge y'all to do it this week. You know what I'm saying? Like take some time as you're prepping for your week, as you are getting ready to get back into your routine and execute your skill sets and y'all's endeavors. Like sit there on Sunday and give yourself like 30 minutes of undistracted time and literally write this stuff out, and actually work towards being intentional about it so that, as we all talked about, you have some clarity of mind so that when you get the money, you're not just having the money, you know how to keep the money and you're financially literate because you got assets bringing in assets, helping you pay for your not only responsibilities, but your luxuries, right? Because everybody wants to have the finer things of life. I think 99.9% of people, when asked, like, would you want to have more than you currently do, will say yes. Some people very content. But when it comes to, like, if you had an opportunity to have a nicer whip versus the whip that you have given to you, no one's gonna turn that down for free, right? We all want the nice things, but it requires more of us. So just revisit the topics as you're sitting there writing down your liabilities, your assets, your expenses, your income, and then do some intentional thought processes and thinking exercises of like, all right, this is what I want. This is what I'm doing well. This is what I got to change. Here's where I'm spending my bread currently. This is my cash flow story. Where do I need to go? Period, point blank. From there, next week, y'all, I believe we're covering lessons 4 and 5. I've listed them as chapters. Let me just double check. So again, either on the app or the upcoming events tab in the TGF website. boom, whenever you click on the actual events in the description, it'll tell you guys what chapters we're discussing. But yes, it is lesson 4, about taxes, and then lesson 5, which is the fact that the rich invent money, or excuse me, yeah, the rich invent money. And the last one being taxes, essentially the game that we're playing in life. So if y'all guys need anything, y'all know where to find us, y'all know where to reach us. I hope you guys have a good rest of y'all Saturday. If you're in Texas and you're moving and grooving, y'all be safe outside. I ask those who are not to keep the state in prayers. We've had some crazy flooding over the last couple days. There's been a lot of rain. And it's honestly been a little sad. There's been a lot of deaths occurring from unexpected amounts of water coming through. So, if you're moving and grooving outside, please be careful, be mindful, turn around, don't drown. I don't know, like we still have to say that continuously, but it's real life though. If you think you can make it, you probably can't. Just go a different route. It's okay.